We are proud of introducing you the unique product, the high coherence wavelength swept light source developed with our own technology. The light source outputs wavelength swept light in single transverse mode without mode hopping. You are about to find the principle, characteristics, and applications of our product. Our wavelength swept light source is an external cavity laser in Littman-Metcalfe configuration. Light output from the gain chip to the right is diffracted by the grating, reflected at the MEMS mirror, and returns to the gain chip. Sweeping the wavelength is simply done by the MEMS mirror rotation. The stable positioning and high accuracy of the rotational center of MEMS mirror is the key to the continuous sweep without mode hopping. We have made it possible to achieve both precise alignment and mass production with our accumulated manufacturing know-how for years. Two products are available, both sweep center wavelength of 1550 nanometers, and each supports at 150 Hz and 1250 Hz sweep frequency. The power source requires the single 12-volt direct current. It can be utilized as a standalone light source only by supplying power. Trigger signals that can be set by wavelength and etalon signals as a sweep wavelength reference are output from the front panel. Connection to the USB port from your PC enables your own setting of the wavelength sweep range and the wavelength of the trigger signals. Having an extremely long coherence distance, this light source can be a key device in length measurement in wide and distance range with high accuracy. This shows the application of wavelength swept light sources. In the field of medical diagnosis, it functions as the light source for optical coherence tomography imaging the cross-sectional structure of living tissues. In the field of infrastructural measurement, it functions as the OFDR light source for the measurement of the space between the reference point and the structure for the diagnosis of the structure by measuring vibrations, displacements, or shapes. In the field of plant measurement, it functions as the OFDR light source to probe in hazardous areas where the human entrance is prohibited. In the field of industrial manufacturing, it functions as the OFDR light source for inspecting the appearances of product in production lines. In the field of optical devices, it functions as the light source for measuring the wavelength-dependent characteristics of optical components. Of course, it functions practically applied as the light source for optical fiber sensing system. Now you will find the characteristics of the light source in the practical operation. The wavelength swept light is output through optical fiber and received at the receiver, and output signals from this receiver is observed by the oscilloscope. You see the cyclical change in the first half cycle of sweep. Output wavelength changes from the shortest to the longest wavelength, and then it returns back to the shortest in the following half cycle. Now you are observing the optical output of the wavelength swept light with the optical spectrum analyzer. Wavelength sweep range is observed like this. Being the sinusoidal sweep of the wavelength, the sweep rate decreases near the both ends of the sweep range and increases near the center of the range. Therefore, near the both ends of the sweep range, the optical spectrum, that is the energy per unit wavelength, is detected more intense. Let's change the wavelength sweep range with the command input from your PC. The wavelength sweep range is changed accordingly. How do you specify the trigger timing with our light source? It is very simple. You can set the trigger timing precisely at a wavelength. What you see is the observation with the oscilloscope. The lines from the top are of gas absorption signal from photodetector, of etalon signals, and of trigger signal from our light source. Entering on your PC a wavelength value, the trigger signal rises at the specified wavelength. Our wavelength swept light source is highly functional in various applications for the fields of precision measurement and medical field. Lineups of products with various center wavelengths and built-in packages are coming up. Contact us for product specification. Our sales representatives are ready for your questions or inquiries. Our expert engineers are happy to pay a visit to your site for the demonstrations and for the detailed explanations. Thank you for watching.